Imagine an army that didn't always fight with steel and bullets, but with paint, plywood, and recorded noise. In World War II, artists, set designers, and sound technicians helped create entire fake armies. They made tanks that looked real from the sky, convoys that sounded real on the ground, and illusions that changed the course of battles. This is the story of deception as a weapon. I'm Same. Today, we'll uncover how creative minds, not just generals, tricked enemy commanders, saved lives, and rewrote military tactics. In modern warfare, information is power. If an enemy commander believes false information, that you have forces where you don't, or that you'll attack at a place you won't, they move troops, expend supplies, and make mistakes. During WWII, visual reconnaissance and aerial photography were vital intelligence tools. Deceiving what aerial observers and reconnaissance pilots saw could be as decisive as winning a firefight. So militaries developed elaborate ruses, dummy camps, false radio chatter, and even fake tanks designed to fool eyes in the sky. This was not only an engineer's job. Artists, theatrical set builders, sign painters, and Hollywood prop crews were recruited or contracted. They used theater tricks, forced perspective, paint, and clever materials to craft convincing props. Sound engineers recorded engines and troop noise. Radio operators simulated fake command traffic. The U.S. even deployed specialized units whose sole mission was deception. The most visible trick was the dummy tank. There were several approaches: wooden frames and canvas skins that mimicked the shape and silhouette of an armored vehicle. Inflatable decoys made from rubberized fabric that could be folded and hauled into position quickly. And painted tarps or netting that, when set over simple frames, created convincing shapes from altitude. The secret wasn't hyperrealism. It was the ability to fool the specific observer. From 10,000 feet, a wooden frame with the right shadowing reads as a Sherman tank. Many decoys were finished with clever paint jobs to imitate light and shadow, and they were placed among fake supply dumps, tents, and even mock anti-tank obstacles so aerial photographs looked authentic. Sight alone wasn't enough. Sound played a huge role. Military reconnaissance often included audio reports. Pilots would note engine noise or the sound of convoys. To reinforce the illusion, units set up loudspeakers and drove them along roads, broadcasting looped recordings of tanks and heavy vehicles. Engineers produced recordings of engine clatter, men shouting, and vehicle idling. These tapes were played from trucks or hidden amplifiers. At times, fake convoys of trucks would pull into position with hidden speakers to make radio or aerial observers believe an armored column had arrived. The result was a multi-sensory lie. The enemy heard what they expected to hear and saw what they expected to see. One of the best-known U.S. units was the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, later popularized as the Ghost Army. They were a mobile deception unit of artists, designers, and sound techs whose mission was to mislead German forces. Using inflatable tanks, fake radio transmissions, and sound recording trucks, they staged realistic-looking armies to draw enemy attention away from real operations. Inflatable tanks were especially practical. They weighed a fraction of a real tank, could be stored compactly, and when arranged with tents, trucks, and fake anti-tank ditches created convincing photographic evidence. In multiple campaigns, these illusions compelled German commanders to reposition or withhold forces, a force multiplier for Allied strikes elsewhere. Deception wasn't limited to sight and sound alone. Radio traffic, the chatter of orders, logistics, and reports, was faked too. Trained operators mimicked command structures and generated believable messages consistent with what the enemy expected. This added credibility to the physical props. If enemy intercepts heard a headquarters that matched the size and schedule of the dummy camps on the ground, the deception became far more plausible. Why were these ruses so effective? War is as much psychology as hardware. Confusion, uncertainty, and the fear of being outflanked force commanders to make cautious or suboptimal choices. A single convincing photo or a few intercepted radio messages could seed doubt. Deception created hesitation. The enemy delayed or redeployed units and sometimes disobeyed orders that would have otherwise prevented Allied advances. That psychological edge often translated directly into fewer casualties and quicker breakthroughs. Not every deception worked. Some dummies were discovered on ground inspection or by close-range reconnaissance, and in a few cases enemy artillery destroyed decoys, which, while wasteful, still served to distract resources. The risk was exposure. Once enemy forces learned to suspect fake equipment in an area, the value of future deceptions there fell. Planners had to be careful with reuse, timing, and blending the fake with genuine activity to avoid becoming predictable. Deception evolved. Today, digital techniques like radar spoofing, electronic countermeasures, and cyber operations inherit the same principle. Control what the opponent believes. Inflatable tanks live on as training aids and cheap decoys, but modern militaries also use electronic signatures, false radar returns, and sophisticated misinformation campaigns to create illusions on a much larger scale. The lesson from WWII's art armies is simple. War isn't only machines and bullets. It's stories, persuasion, and perception. People who could paint a convincing shadow, record the right rumble, or mimic a radio voice helped win battles without firing a shot. That's deception as strategy. Low cost, high impact, and timeless. If you enjoyed this deep dive into wartime trickery, like the video and subscribe for more history that surprises you. Comment below, which deception tactic surprised you the most? Inflatable tanks, sound trucks, or fake radio traffic? I'm Seem. See you next time.